Hey everybody. So here's what we're doing. I'm putting my damn whatchamacallit in here. All right, we good? Went to the Blade Show today. Looked at a lot of cool stuff. I walked in and the first group I saw was the Vosteed folks, makers of the fine raccoon that I've been loving so far. I've only had it for 24 hours, but really sweet little knife. Just love that blade shape, man. It's such a good slicey knife. Very comfortable. Anyway, saw them and was like, hey, I just bought my first knife yesterday. Got it on Amazon before they went out of stock. He's like, yeah. He's like, we opened them up, we released them, and they were all gone within hours. Thousands of them. So he's like, here's a present. He gave me a nice t-shirt and bag and some other stuff. Gave me some swag. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Didn't buy a knife from them there. They were just happy that I bought a new knife. And hey, they're a cool Chinese company. They were there from China, representing the brand and stuff. And, they're good people. I know people like Greg Medford and others like to bitch about China, this and that. No, they're communists and you're funding terrorism if you buy something from China, as he's recording it on his iPhone. But it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm sitting there talking to guys and they're just like us. These are people. The Chinese government are scumbags, but the people are just like us, They got a passion for knives. They work hard. They make a product and they're proud of it. I can't begrudge them that. So anyway, I looked around. I looked at customs. There was Jack Wolf had a bunch of cool knives, but I just was like, I just wasn't feeling it. Although I've been wanting a Jack Wolf knife for a while. And I looked at the new Spider Co's. There was some cool knives with artisan, and nothing was really jumping out at me. So I go over and stop at the place I always go to, which is Old Town Cutlery. They're from Cumming, Georgia. That's the local knife shop I go to all the time. And I saw Melissa there. She's always lovely to talk to. So I was hanging out and talking to her just a little bit and seeing what was new. And she showed me a Benchmade that was gorgeous, but it was like $580. I'm like, I'm not buying that. And but then I saw the Shootout. Now I don't have a lot of OTFs, and I don't carry them a lot. And I'll tell you why. As much as I love Microtech, despite the really abrasive button, they're just, to me, it's just a rectangle. There's something about the ergonomics and when you're holding it. If you're just opening up a letter or something, yeah, whatever. It'll work like anything else. But to me, it's not wide enough this way. The jimping is there for looks. It doesn't actually do anything because your hand doesn't naturally engage it. Your hand wants to shift around. And it just, to me, I don't know. It just doesn't really sit in the hand that well. I love my Guardian Tactical. LMAX steel, flat grind, hollow grind up here, so I guess it's a compound grind. The best OTF action of any knife I've ever owned. However, it's like my Apple TV remote that's constant. Every time I reach on the coffee table, I grab it. 50% of the time, it shoots out of my hand because it's all rounded. It's slick. It feels, it's such a nice, fine, premium feeling finish. And it looks, and it's great in some regards, but then it also means you're going to be dropping it constantly. There's no grip, there's no traction, and it's rounded and smooth. And when you go to grab it, half the time it squirts out of your hand like a bar of soap in the shower. This is like that. So I don't carry it a lot. As much as I love this knife, it's just a cool design and the action's nice. But again, it's just a rectangle. There's a hint of contouring, but nothing that locks your grip in. Now, this one doesn't want to twist in my hand as much as the Microtech. The Microtech's problem is it's barely wider this way than this way. This one's wide this way, but it's even slicker than that. Axial gear, a little bit better. Wider than it is this way, so it doesn't want to twist. And it's a little more grippy. It's the best of the three. And it's 20 CV steel, which is really nice. But still just not. And of course, then I've got my big-ass Combat Trudon clone made by Vespa with S35 VN and carbon inlay. Beautiful, but just too big for EDC. So I haven't been carrying a lot of OTFs. And I've got rid of like a lot of my Heretics and other OTFs, my Hogues. And then I've seen this one, and I was like, you know what? That could be one that I could carry every day. This is the Shootout. This is, I'll put these two together because these are the closest in design and materials and just the way they function. If you took an Ultratech or an axial gear shift and it had a love child with a Bugout, this is what you'd get, the Shootout. Here's what I like about it. Crew wear steel with a PVD coating, looks good. The action, really light, really smooth. Deep carry pocket clip. This glass breaker it means business. Now, and to the extent that in a reverse grip, you're gonna have to just put your thumb to the side or over here because it's uncomfortable. But that becomes a good pressure point. If you needed to exert force or create a pressure point on somebody, non-lethal use in a defensive type situation, this would be really good pressed against someone's head or back of the anywhere. I mean, it's not going to break the skin, but it's really freaking uncomfortable. It exerts a lot of pressure on a small point. Not enough that you'd break the skin or cut you, but goddamn, does that not feel good. So here's what I like about it. 2.8 ounces for a 3.5 inch blade with a 3.3 inch cutting edge, almost 8.5 overall length. That is a fairly large OTF knife. Just a little bit bigger than the Shift. It's up there with the Ultratech. Little wider, but exactly the same length. However, same width, maybe a tiny bit thinner, but it weighs considerably less, 2.8 ounces. That is a featherweight. That is absolutely light as hell. No rattle, as opposed to the Microtech. That one doesn't rattle. Okay, these ones don't rattle. I've had some Microtechs before that did rattle. So, all right, whatever. None of them rattle. Here's what I like about it. All of these suffer from the same problem that most OTFs do. The grips, they can put, there's jimping. There's no contour. It's still just a rectangle, and the jimping doesn't naturally line up with how you would necessarily hold the knife. And the knife wants to twist or move around, and it's slick. You don't feel like if your hands were wet or bloody, or you're in an emergency situation, that my grip does not feel secure on this knife. It just doesn't. That's why I like a lot of knives with micarta and grooves where you feel like your finger locks in, things like that. This does. This does not have the same old rectangular shape. This has a shape more like what you might find on a Benchmade folding knife. You've got good texturing on the sides. This texturing here is like the side of like a grip panel on a Smith & Wesson M&P pistol. Really, it's not deep where it's gonna you feel like it's gonna cut in, but it's a lot of traction. Jimping right here where your hand would fall. Jimping on the back, jimping here. It's got texture everywhere, but more importantly, the back is curved to follow the flow of your palm, and then the palm swells here. Your hand locks into that. It doesn't want to move up. It doesn't want to move down between the grip and the fact that this is placed properly with that, where you've got this side flaring, that side flaring. That really, you could stab pretty damn hard without fear of your hand coming up and over that. The other thing I like, they've got a really nice button here, and you'll notice the angle. The angle is steep, right? Because of that, the jimping is mild. This doesn't need overly abrasive jimping. It's very comfortable. When you sit here with a Microtech, and I've taken heat for this before because all the Microtech fanboys, you're just a pussy. You know what? Here's the thing. If there was no other way to get an OTF, see, this is such a short button this way. The height is, and it's such a gradual ramp, your hand would slide off. So they have to make the jimping really freaking aggressive, which is fine if you're wearing gloves. And maybe in the heat of battle, you're just going to go through. But it's like you're using it every day, and if you're opening and closing it, you're fidgeting with it, that will sit there and start to chew up the skin on your thumb after like 5 tries. It's ridiculously sharp. If it was the only means to an end, it's like, all right, well, whatever. If you want an OTF, that's just how it works. But you know what? This one isn't. This one isn't. This one isn't. All of these are able to have really nice stiff springs and good fast deployment. And you can sit here and do this all day. And your thumb's not going to be sore. You're not going to have your skin all ripped up and chewed up. So it's like everybody else can do that. That's just a Microtech thing. This is probably the most comfortable of all these outside of this one. Outside of the Guardian Tactical. But the action's good. It's some kind of carbon fiber composite. It doesn't feel flexy like the Grivery. It feels pretty stout. Now, if you were prying or really using the knife hard, I don't know that the carbon fiber would hold up as well as, machined hardened aluminum. I don't know. I don't tend to use my knives that way. And if I did, I'd be using something, more made for that task. But in an emergency situation, would it hold up to that kind of abuse? I don't know. The blade play on this, a little bit, but you can see it's not moving a ton. You hear it. But it's not moving a ton. It moves a little bit less than the Guardian Tactical. It moves a good bit less than the Axial. The Axial's got a little bit of play in it. And the Ultratech, Axial and the Ultratech have got the same amount of play. There's a lot more play in that than there is in this. It's a nice thinner blade. So again, maybe not as beefy, maybe not as strong, but as an EDC version of an OTF, kind of tactical knife, I like that it's a thinner blade. I like that it's a high grind all the way to the top. This is going to be a wicked slicer. Sharpness test, I have not stropped it yet. Beautifully sharp. Push test. Oh. Well, yeah, it does it. Yeah, it does a push test. I'll strop it. I always just throw it on the strop real quick just to tune the edge up a tiny bit, make sure there's no burrs. Benchmades tend to have a toothy kind of an edge to it, but it seems pretty damn sharp out of the box. But I like that they've taken an OTF, given it a really good, useful blade style. There's just a hint of a belly on this. You got the secondary point. You got a little bit of belly that. Like, this will be a decent slicer. It's got that thin blade with the high grind, so it's going to slice through things. You're cutting an apple or doing whatever. It'll go right through it real easy. That's a really nice. And then the fact that they put all this texture and then they molded it more like a folding knife handle. Now, they've had to make the knife taller this way to do that, because when a knife goes inside, even though the knife is curved, this is curved, but it's still, the edges are parallel. It's going to come straight back in. So when a knife is on a straight track like that, the handle has to be roughly straight. So by making a little bit of a bigger handle, they could add this extra contouring so that it fits more like a folding knife or a gun grip or something like that. Like, it really just locks your hand in there. And the fact that this is half the weight or 2/3 of the weight of an Ultratech or something else. I mean, when you hold these side by side, you're like, this is not twice the weight, but if this is 2.8, this is going to be 3.78 or almost 4. I mean, there's a lot of metal, even though it's aluminum. It's a lot of metal. You got steel and aluminum in there. This is all steel and aluminum. Same thing here. These are all steel and aluminum. This has a steel clip, some kind of, I think that the button itself is that lightweight composite. Maybe that's metal. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But this is just a featherweight. This is like a bug-out version of an OTF. Hence why it's got the out, shout out, tagged out, bail out, bug out. They've got these lightweight, extremely lightweight, thin, EDC-friendly knives of different types. And now they've done it for the OTF. And I think it's freaking brilliant. I mean, I'm a sucker for really nice, well-made $50, or $60 value knives, but I'll do like my bug outs, and I do like my Ultratechs and Guardian Tacticals and stuff. But this I paid $303 out the door with taxes. That was their Blade Show pricing. So for $300 for a Benchmade for an OTF with crew wear, that's a hell of a deal. So really nice, very happy with this. I'm going to carry this around as my EDC for the next week just to see how I like it in the pocket. It is a little larger, so when you look at it, you're like, oh, it looks like a big knife, but you pick it up and you're like, Jesus Christ, what is it, like a toy? It doesn't feel like there's anything to it. But it's nice. It's really nice. So anyway, hope you enjoy. Hit like and subscribe. That was all I could find there that really stood out. There's a couple new artisan knives coming out. I looked at Giant Mouse. Has got a couple nice knives coming out. Some of the ones that are made in Menangiello or whatever, Italy. They were prototypes, so I'm going to keep an eye on them. And when they come out and they're offered, some of them I think are coming out June 16th. I'm going to maybe pick one of those up. There's some really nice knives there. But I don't know. This year, there was a lot of stuff, but I think I might be getting knifed out a little bit. I just have so much of everything, and I played with everything, and it's like, well, how many knives can you actually carry? So anyway, that is the Shootout. Big thumbs up, and big thanks to Old Town Cutlery in Cumming, Georgia, hooking me up with this. Out of all the knives at the show, this is the one I came up with. The one that from the store that I'm always going into all the time anyway. So I like supporting a local business. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. I gotta get this stupid thing out of the cradle again. Gotta come up with a better phone mount. Shut up, idiots.